Hello everybody. First I want to apologize that this review's almost a month late. I've just been very overwhelmed with grad school and all that sort of work. So I'll say right up front, I'm not going to do a spoiler review on this. If you've seen the movie, go check it out. You probably know what happens at this point. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on the film and talk about Thor, Love and Thunder, once again directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, Taika Waititi, Christian Bale, and Natalie Portman. And this is obviously a follow-up to the last Thor film, Thor Ragnarok, which was so well received because of Taika Waititi's direction and his humor. And I really, really enjoyed that film. Not quite my favorite Marvel movie or anything like that, but it's certainly one that I think breaks the mold of the traditional standard making of these MCU films. And so I was very, very, very excited for Love and Thunder because it was actually one of my most anticipated movies of the year. And obviously Taika coming off of something as great as Jojo Rabbit, which won him the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. I was really excited what he could bring to Thor once again, and obviously the prospect of Natalie Portman coming back to play Jane Foster, and not only that, but the mighty Thor was really, really intriguing, because I'm like, what are they going to do with this? Like, how is this going to play in fact? And also you had the Guardians of the Galaxy in there. So there was a lot of things to look forward to, especially that they set up after Endgame. And I was severely disappointed. I gotta say, I think that this is one of the more lackluster entries in the MCU. And I hate to say that because I was so looking forward to this movie. But what Taika did in Ragnarok, for better or for worse, he doubles down on in Love and Thunder. And I think that's to its detriment, especially with the humor, which, let's be honest, it's really funny in a lot of spots. But it is almost to the point that it kind of like conflicts with the drama in the film. Basically, the drama is undercut by this type of humor, which he inserts so frequently, and I really think that's what brings this film down. And also, the fact, and this is, believe it or not, this is crazy, but the fact the film is only 2 hours, which is like one of the shortest Marvel movies, I felt like there was so much they could have done, but I'll get into that. Let's start off with some positives besides that. Chris Hemsworth, always great as Thor. Obviously, his comedic timing's always on point. Natalie Portman gives her best performance as this character. Should be no surprise. Tessa Thompson is great as always. Taika Waititi is still hilarious as Korg. I also really loved some of the side characters, like Russell Crowe as Zeus. His scene was really, really great. And just what they do with him, he really was such an entertainable presence. And his accents, I tell you, something with Russell Crowe and accents usually always works. He's really good at it. But that's no exception here. And obviously the visuals are just astounding. Really, it's like eye candy. It just pops out at the screen, and it really does feel like such a great homage to the 80s in a lot of ways. Of course, the Guns N' Roses songs and all that sort of stuff. But really, I think the standout of this movie, which also ties on one of my problems with it, is Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. I mean, every single second this guy's on screen, he is so captivating, which, let's be honest, it's Christian Bale, so you shouldn't be surprised about that. I said, going into this movie, he is going to be like Heath Ledger's Joker to him in The Dark Knight. And while obviously it's not on that level, I do think that Christian Bale is the one who brought the most to this character. But I feel like there was so much more they could have done with him to kind of justify him being there. And obviously, I do really like where they end with his character, but I felt like it was severely underutilized, his purpose in the film and kind of his motivation overall. Because it felt like they skipped a couple steps to get to where they wanted him to be. And not necessarily where he should be. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope I'm getting to something. And I really think that if they had fleshed him out more, he'd be hands down one of the best villains in the MCU. Though as it stands, he's definitely a good villain, and I think a lot of that has to do with his performance. Once again, there's some really cool filmmaking techniques, especially when it goes into grayscale, a certain segment of the film. Really, really cool stuff. Some of the visuals are astounding, some of them not so much, and if you've seen the shot, it's kind of become a meme, so you probably know what I'm talking about at this point. I also really love the kind of, well, at least partially the conflict between Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, that it's kind of like he broke up with his ex and now he's like trying to get back with the other one and the other one's getting jealous. It's really funny, but they kind of drag that out too. And I really do love what they do, once again, with Jane Foster in this movie. And I think that even that could have been a little bit more well explained, but I do think regardless it does work. There's a great flashback montage at the beginning of this movie, which I think is so much fun and really shows you everything that happened to Jane and Thor in between the time we last saw her. And I think that really, I'm glad that she finally got her just due in this franchise, because obviously the first two Thor movies didn't really give her a whole lot to do. And for those of you wondering about the Guardians of the Galaxy, if they're in the movie that much, no. That whole thing they set up in Endgame, I don't really think goes anywhere. They just show up first, I don't know, 15 minutes of the movie, they're like, alright, see you later. I don't think that's really much of a spoiler. But basically they're there to set up the next Guardians movie. Boo-hoo, I know. I really wish that we could have seen more of a team up between them and Thor, but alas, that's what they wanted to give us, so whatever. But I think another reason why this movie kind of fails a little bit, I'm not saying it's bad at all, I think there's so much fun to be had here, but I think the fact that it just, the way they end off where the characters are, don't necessarily, it feels a little ham-fisted. It doesn't necessarily feel like completely justified, and it just leaves the film in such a weird spot that I just really didn't understand at all. And obviously they break the rules when it comes to, well, I don't know if they break the rules when it comes to Stormbreaker, but there's certainly logistical issues that I'm kind of really hung up on. And a lot of it, without getting too much into it, a lot of it has to do when Cap grabs the hammer in Endgame. That's all I'm going to say. But there's definitely a lot of plot holes and things I think really could have been cleared up a lot more by a more expansive runtime. Even if you throw like 15 more minutes in the movie, I wouldn't have complained about it, but it does move at a clip almost. And it is a really fun movie. I just think Taika Waititi went a little overboard on this one, and I think the next film he makes, obviously it's not going to be in the MCU, but if he really dials it back and presents something like he did with Jojo Rabbit, I think Taika Waititi still has a lot to deliver us. I love this guy's films, but this is probably my least favorite Taika Waititi film. I just got to throw it out there. That's how I feel about it. But it's not bad at all. I think the best moments in this film are some of the best moments in the entirety of the Thor franchise. And if you probably know what I'm talking about. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Also, the goats. Amazing. That's all I want to say. But on that note, I'm going to give Thor Love and Thunder a 6 out of 10. I thought it was okay. Really could have been a whole lot better, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes, as they say. But regardless, I just want to say I've been very disappointed with Phase 4. I just think after Endgame it's so hard to come up with anything so groundbreaking and revelatory that will make the fans go wild. Obviously Spider-Man No Way Home is an exception, but I really think they need to pick it up when it comes to these movies, because it doesn't really feel like they're building towards anything. They're just kind of standalone, even though they say there's, you know, obviously we've got revealed like Secret Wars and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I am looking forward to the future, especially Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which, I'll be honest, looks like it could be the best Marvel movie ever. So we'll have to see how that one turns out. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments below what you thought of Thor Love and Thunder. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Would really, really appreciate it. Once again, very sorry this review took so long, but I've just been a very, very busy guy. So don't worry, though. I'm going to put up my review for Nope hopefully in the next couple days. I don't want to promise anything because I know how life goes nowadays. And there's some other stuff that is coming down the pipeline. Next week we're about to finish out the top 70 albums of the 70s. Obviously we've already gone over all the picks on the list, but we want to go over the snubs and the stuff that did not make the list and our overall thoughts of what could have been improved. So be sure to check that out when it drops next week. And don't forget to start voting for the top 80 albums of the 80s, because the deadline is going to be August 8th. So get those listed into either me or John. And yeah, guys, can't wait to see that and what you deliver on that. And in the meantime, I bid you adieu, and I will see you later.